All right, hello everybody, and welcome to a long-awaited video. Got put off by several weeks, not intentionally, but just with life getting in the way. We are finally here. We are talking about Wolverine, one of the all-star X-Men, probably the most famous X-Men. I would debate that there's probably other heroes within the team that are some of the GOATs, the greatest of all time. But I think Wolverine's the one that's going to be the most relevant within pop culture. Coming straight out of Giant Size X-Men #1 from the 70s, we have Logan, aka Wolverine. Yeah, I'm just super excited to talk about this character. I've had a chance to just sort of like refresh myself and remind myself of the highs and lows of this character. So let's not even skip a beat, except for there's one beat we need to skip real quick because we need to do our community spotlight, which for this week, I've decided to highlight Villain Theory's look at Nick Fury's new aspect cards. For the most part, if you are somebody who plays Marvel Champions, you're probably very aware of Villain Theory. I'm probably not giving you anything new, but one, I was just down for the count last week. Couldn't really make any content about Nick Fury being announced. And I feel like Villain Theory did a really good job of just concisely going through the cards outside of our known Nick Fury hero pack and talking about the other cards that come in the kit, what we can expect to see from the upcoming Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. box in relation to the pre-con for his deck. I think it's a great video. Like I said, at this point, I'm kind of giving you advice to go look at a more popular video, less kind of off the beaten trail, but I think it was really good. And so, yeah, go check that out. But we are here to talk about Logan, aka Wolverine. I already said that. Who is, right off the bat, we'll be talking about the alter ego, which is Logan, a 6 recovery, 6 hand size, 10 hit points alter ego with the setup ability of Snicked. Search your deck and discard pile for the Wolverine's Claw upgrade and put it into play. Now, I believe this has sort of gone through a couple stages. I started the game either right after Wolverine came out or right before. So everything that sort of happened with Wolverine, he was one of the last heroes I got just because he was hard to find, and also like I wasn't in any rush to get to Wolverine. I like him. I liked what I kind of got from his general vibe, but I wasn't really gunning to get him. My understanding is that the technicalities of how all this works have sort of changed, and I think are closely reflected of, let me just see here real quick. I believe we're kind of looking at something that's a little bit more similar to how Laura works, where they just start out and play. So, okay, I remember when the hang up here was. So originally, we'll just keep that in play. Originally, I think what the problem was that there was a chance that Wolverine's claws could end up in your hand after a mulligan. So when you drew your cards, if you happened to mulligan and then drew some more cards and Wolverine's claws were a part of them, then this would basically miss. And because Wolverine's claws have a null cost, then you can't add them into play, and you basically miss out on the entire purpose of the character to some degree. They have since revised this. I believe the way that this is written now, and I'll put it up on screen if I can find the ruling, is that it's pretty much the same as X-23. The claws just enter play from no matter where they are. What I will say is, obviously Wolverine has a lot of recovery. That is very notable, that is very thematic of Logan, very thematic of Wolverine. But I'm always a little let down by this character only because all he does on his other side is recover. I know that's kind of undercutting what's capable of an alter ego and the advantages of being an alter ego, but there's no like extra thing you can do. Even Thor can go find his hammer if you need to. Wolverine doesn't have that. That's fine. We're not going to get hung up on that. It's one of the things that always stands out to me whenever I play Wolverine is, oh, alter ego doesn't really do anything because you've already done it. But let's move over to the actual Wolverine side. A hero with 2 thwart, 2 attack, 2 defense, the X-Men trait, and the healing factor ability. Response after the player phase begins, heal 2 damage. Oh yeah, and then 5 hand size, 10 hit points. So this is pretty run-of-the-mill. This is what you would expect of Wolverine. He's just going to recover. I do like the fact that he's very well-rounded. I don't recall that there's any way to bump up his stats within his kit, and I could be just completely misremembering that. But the fact that he's just like Captain America, 222, very well-rounded, he's going to be able to kind of like do whatever you need him to do. But obviously, for the most part, he does lean himself towards just, you don't really need to defend because you're going to recover that damage anyway. He is a little bit low on health, in comparison to other characters. I say that, and he's not really that low on health. But I think 10 is good because he's just going to naturally recover anyway. Which also kind of makes the fact that on his other side he recovers for 6. Like, he is just really hard to take down for a villain. And I think that one, very thematic. All these things are spot on for Wolverine. But there's not really a lot more to say. As a hero, his body, his card itself is just generically good. I think this is a really good beginner hero because you have the forgiveness of having your health recover over time. You don't need to stress out as much because as long as you don't go below 1, you're still in the game. When you start your turn, you'll be back at least 3. You can assess from there. Like I said, overall, I think he's just a good starter hero. We'll explore that more as we get into the kit. Oh, I suppose we skipped over this. I alluded to it, but I didn't actually touch on it. So Wolverine's Claws, the big topic of the alter ego, is a upgrade. It is a weapon. It is a permanent. Exhaust Wolverine's Claws and choose an attack event in your hand, and take damage equal to its printed cost. Play that event, ignoring its resource cost. That attack gains piercing. So I feel like this is really what makes Wolverine tick. And why having it in play was so important, why they sort of needed to massage the rules a little bit to make Wolverine play the way that he was kind of intended. Overall, I like the fact that this hits any attack event. It's not exclusive. We've seen in the past, and I understand for aspect cards that you sort of need to limit this, but we've seen aspect cards where you need to play an aggression attack event. Like, it calls out the exact aspect. And obviously it wouldn't make any sense for a hero card to do that, but I like the fact that this isn't restricted to pick a Wolverine attack event. But overall, this is the reason why he does recover, because you will be taking bits of damage off of you'll be taking bits of your health away at the cost of basically making big attacks for free once a turn. And that's really cool. And that's also what I think makes for a good beginner hero, because it is so bold. It is so strong that when a new player plays it, they're going to feel powerful. And I think that is good to really hook a new player in. Then we've got 2 copies of Track by Scent, his Thwart event. So it is a 2-cost event, Superpower Thwart, Hero Action Thwart. Remove 3 threat from a scheme. If this removes the last threat from a scheme, draw 2 cards. So overall, pretty cut and dry. It's right up there with Clear the Area. But I like the fact that this does get you some card advantage. You don't necessarily need to worry about costs of cards for the most part, but if this can take down a scheme, take away all the threat from it, and then draws you 2 cards, those might be attack events, which you can then use the claws to feed into. Or, after you've already used the attack event, you just have more cards, hopefully. Well, I guess this sort of cycles you through your deck. Like, you're going to use 2 cards up to play this. Well, I guess you're going to use 3 cards up to play this. But you do sort of just get the cost of playing it back. And overall, this isn't the most impressive card, but I think it's pretty great. All right, then we have Lunging Strike. We have 2 copies, 3-cost event, attack, hero action, deal 8 damage to an enemy. If you exhausted Wolverine's Claws to play this card, it gains overkill. So not only are you going to have piercing, but you're going to have overkill. So you're going to go through those tough status counters, and you are just going to deliver a payload. I think this card is exactly what the claws were designed for. Pretty much says it right on the tin. But I think this is such a really cool event. It is so thematic of what Wolverine's known for. He's just going to come at you. He's going to deal a bunch of damage. He yes, you're going to take 3 damage to do this, but you're going to deal 8 back. And having that overkill is just great. I love that it's situational too, that sort of like helps to keep the card in check. But this is just 3 for 8. Normally played, then that's still good. But if you want to take that damage, you get to hopefully deal a bunch of damage. Maybe go through a guard minion, but also get some damage into the villain. And great. I love this card. Next up, we have Berserker Barrage, 2-cost event, attack. Hero action, deal 4 damage to an enemy. If this attack defeats an enemy, you may take 2 damage. Repeat this ability. So, oops, there enough. Okay, so I really like this card. I think it's so cool. I think it invokes the same kind of feeling of when you're playing Valkyrie and you get to just kind of like bounce off several minions in one big burst and just like go to town. Love that for this card. I believe... Actually, let me just check this real quick. All right. Okay, so that took longer than I was expecting. I thought that there would be a FAQ or something in the insert for Wolverine, and there wasn't. So yes, I don't even remember where I left off. But basically, what I was looking up to make sure was that if that 4 damage would defeat an enemy, you can repeat this process by taking 2 damage. As long as you have the hit points remaining and you keep defeating minions, you can just keep going. So this is very much like it's a different version of Valkyrie, but you're going to invoke that same kind of feeling. You're going to take out a minion, bounce off them, take 2 damage, take out another minion. And, this can be very self-destructive, but I think at the same time, it can be a huge game changer where for just the cost of 3 cards, you can take out an entire swarm of enemies that were a little bit more bulky. Obviously, if everything has 1 hit point, it seems like a bit of overkill. But I guess additionally, if you had some way to give the attack overkill, actually, I don't know if that's something that's going to be easy to do. But if there was a way so that, but I suppose that would only also apply to the first one. Either way, I'm sitting here trying to go into some kind of like magical Christmas land here. And in reality, if this can just take out 3 minions, I mean, it's a lot of work and you've dealt some damage to yourself, but it can make for a really cool moment. And it might not be the most powerful thing you can do, but I think it is a very cool thing that you can do where, as a new player, if you pull it off, you just feel amazing. Next up, we have 2 copies of Slice and Dice, a 3-cost event, attack again. Those claws are going to get their use. And hero action, make the following 2 attacks in order. Deal 3 damage to an enemy, deal 3 damage to an enemy. So I know this comes up a lot, and we'll make sure that we get this right up front. There are ways to bump up the damage that an attack does. This is technically 2 attacks, so you're only going to bump up the first instance of, you're going to bump up the first dot here. So if you were to use, I think it's aggressive energy that bumps up an attack by 1, there's probably other ways to do this. My mind starts to go to Rogue because she can take hero cards, and trying to figure out if there's some combination of hero cards that like would stick around. Let me check again. I don't want to talk too much here and be confusing. So until this is live. Okay. So I'm thinking of superhero adaptation. So you grab an event. So there's not going to be a situation where you have like a permanent in play that can augment a hero specific permanent in play that's going to be able to augment this attack. I bet at some point there probably will be some way that you can spiral all this out, and I'm just not thinking of it because I don't play so much multiplayer with specifically Wolverine and Rogue to make this happen. But either way, I think this is a really cool card. I think that it has the possibility to do a lot of good. I just think that there is a cap on what it's capable of doing. Either way, still it's a cool card. You're able to hit multiple enemies, and there's not always a easy way to take out multiple enemies. I guess additionally, I suppose right there in the kit, I believe only the first attack, and this is going to gain piercing. I guess that is important within the kit, is you get 1 piercing for 3 and then another attack for 3. This can easily take out a minion, a problematic minion. This can just help you to take out 2 minions, maybe take out a guard minion, and then you get to make an attack against the villain. But either way, cool card. Wolverine is so much about attacking that this is, just par for the course. Cool card, and we've seen other cards like it, but this is pretty sweet. Then we've got 2 copies of Regenerative Healing. 1 cost event, superpower, choose 1, heal 4 damage from your identity, or discard each stun and confused status on your identity. This is a lifesaver. Most often I find myself using this to just heal 4 damage because I don't want it to just sit around in my hand in case I get confused or stunned. But the times when it does just clear off everything, like I can't even think of a scenario where you're going to necessarily find yourself commonly being confused and stunned, but they're probably out there. I think it's hard to, I would say in general, I feel like it's really hard to collect both of those at the same time. But, you get into multiplayer, things happen, it's probably something that's going to happen. I know it's Godlike Stamina does this for 0 and gains you 2 life. It does kind of like half of this. It clears a status counter. Either way, I think that this is very thematic. I think it always has a use, because healing 4 damage from your identity, this can even be in Alter Ego, is useful. But the times when you can clear the status cards is going to be even better. Regardless, it's just a good generic Wolverine card. Got our 1 copy of Berserker Frenzy, 2 cost upgrade, a condition. Hero response after Wolverine takes any amount of damage from an enemy attack, draw a card. Force response, when you flip to Alter Ego, discard this card. So this is very similar to the Ice Slide with Iceman, where you sort of want to set this up and you want to try to get as much advantage out of this as possible, because when you go to Alter Ego, you're going to lose this. The only time that this has really ever backfired on me is when I've hit my obligation and it's something that I need to do. We'll get to the obligation in a little bit. Oh, I suppose actually looking at the obligation right now, I can see an instance of where Regenerative Healing would be very helpful. But this is one where I'm hopefully going to draw at least 2 cards, if not more. And if there's a full board and you're able to minimize the amount of damage to 1 damage per minion, this just draws you a tremendous amount of cards, and it can be very great. It will definitely pay for itself. When it doesn't, when you purposely get, or when the game pushes you to Alter Ego, where you take a bigger attack than you were expecting, and you kind of have to go on Alter Ego, it's not great when you have to burn this card. But for the most part, I get pretty solid use out of it. I'm generally going to get 2 cards back at least. Then we've got the Ally, Jubilee. 2 cost ally, 1 thwart, 1 attack, X-Men traded, 2 health, and the response after Jubilee enters play, choose an enemy until the end of the phase while Wolverine or Jubilee is making a basic attack against that enemy, they get +2 attack for that attack. I have gotten the most use out of this when I've had some way to ready Wolverine up multiple times. Other than that, it is nice to be able to deal 7 damage to the villain if you need to, or if there's a really difficult minion you need to get through, this can just help you to push right through it. And hopefully, if it's a guard minion, hopefully 4 damage from Wolverine is going to be enough to get it out of the way. I'm kind of not impressed with Jubilee. There's probably ways of playing her that are more, focused, and then you're going to get your use out of it. I've never been one to get a great amount of use out of Jubilee. And we've got our copy of Adamantium Skeleton, a 2-cost upgrade. You get +4 health, and Wolverine's attack gets +1, and his basic attacks gain piercing. So this can be very helpful. This is one of those cards that I would say you go and look for immediately. You mulligan hard for this, and you just go with it. Additionally, I think just that bumping up the attack, which I forgot about this card when I said his base attack or his base stats will stay the same. Being able to have 3 attack and piercing is good. That just helps you get through all the tough. I can think of situations right now that I would love to be able to just consistently have piercing. Overall, like, this isn't the first card I would necessarily worry about, but I think that it is a card that, like I said, if you can hard mulligan for it, if you find it in your mulligan, in your opening hand, this is good. It's gonna help you, but do with that information what you wish. Then we've got Wolverine's Cabin, a 1-cost upgrade, location, alter ego action, exhaust Logan's Cabin, shuffle 1 Wolverine card from your discard pile back into your deck. So this is going to be helpful, especially with how many attacks he goes through. You will get use out of this. Unfortunately, I will say that I don't find myself going to alter ego a lot with Wolverine, so I don't think this has the same effect that other alter ego cards do. But if you have this out, if you're gaining cards back, you're getting some recursion. All of Wolverine's cards are helpful, and so I think that this will be something that would be nice, even if you get a really low deck and you're just able to set up your next draw so that you're going to get that card back, or just giving yourself another chance to hit one of your attack events is nice. But overall, I would say this is kind of lower on the scale of cards that are important, but you will get use out of it. And lastly, we're looking at I Got Better, a 4-cost upgrade, superpower, interrupt. When you would be defeated by an enemy attack, instead set your hit points to 5, ready your identity, and discard this card. So I did not realize that this just gets discarded. I think there are other cards like this that remove themselves from the game, and maybe I'm wrong. I feel like there might be. Either way, this is very thematic. This is very cool. Frank Quitely art. This is actually pretty good. I don't generally love Frank Quitely art, but this is pretty good. Overall, I would say this is just a nice insurance policy. If you're doing your... Oh no, you don't want to do that with Berserker Barrage. This will not save you from Berserker Barrage. But overall, if you've just found yourself super low, this is going to be just a nice way to say, I don't care. I'm going to just regenerate back and I'll get better. Good safety card, is rarely expensive. I think it is the most expensive card in this kit. We do have a couple 3s, but this one you can't cheat the cost on. Overall, just cool card. But let's get to the deck tech. All right, so here we are looking at the a basic Wolverine deck. For these episodes, I like to try to find a deck that's built by the community that can highlight. Basically, you've just discovered Marvel Champions, you've got the core set, picked up Wolverine, what can you do with the hero? And I tried very hard, and I felt like I didn't know enough about Wolverine to try to build my own deck, for an example. I wanted to use something from the community, but it's funny, the beginner tag here kind of gets used very loosely, and I feel like it's not accurate. I wish there was some way that Marvel CDB would allow you to basically say, minimize the number of packs, not what packs, minimize the number of packs. Because a lot of the beginner decks for Wolverine start at 8 to 12 different packs, and I feel like that's not conducive for a new player. But I felt like this was probably a good place to start, because I do think that Wolverine is such a strong hero that you can build pretty much any deck you want with him. But I do think that this is, by just taking the core set, and this might not be the best example ever, but I do think that it does speak to what Wolverine wants to do. So right off the bat, you've got Black Widow, who I would say the best use of Black Widow, and I didn't realize this for the longest time, but she does not take damage to use for interruptibility. Let me just click on her, make it a little bit easier. She's going to be there to just help you from taking encounter cards that you do not want to deal with. Shadow of the Past is not necessarily the worst card for Wolverine to deal with, but it's certainly a card you don't want to deal with. If you don't want to deal with just a assault, if you don't want to deal with advance, like if there's just a encounter card that you find you're just like, you know what, I would rather have any other card than this card. Black Widow is going to be good for that. She does thwart for 2. Wolverine's not necessarily in need of a good thwarter, but just having a body that can, you know, deal one of her basic actions, but then can just sit there and wait for her to use a genius resource to prevent an encounter card is always a good thing. Then we have Colossus, who I believe... oh, did we not do that? I thought I saw that. Oh, okay. Well, okay. Colossus is still good in this deck. So, okay, I'm surprised that this deck does not use Fastball Special, which I guess is kind of a bonus card that I would put in there. It's their team-up card. Colossus is just good. He comes in, he costs 3, and he has a tough status counter on him, and he deals a pretty good amount of damage. I think that he's just a good card to have around. Like I said, Fastball Special not being in this deck is maybe a bit of an oversight, considering that it comes with the Wolverine pack. But overall, just good basic ally to have, and so I understand why it's in the deck. Oops. Then we have Jubilee, we have Luke Cage. I think the important part about what we're going to see from using protection for Wolverine is just being able to have a bunch of toughness allies is just nice, because Wolverine doesn't necessarily care about taking a lot of damage. Having that extra blocker every once in a while is always a good thing. Then we've got Mockingbird and Nick Fury, both really good cards. I think we'll probably have to upgrade to Nick Fury Jr. at some point, because I imagine there's going to be a lot of people playing Nick Fury. So if you find yourself at a table, just be ready to sub Nick Fury after Nick Fury Sr. Then we've got Counterpunch, which I feel like does not get enough use. And with Wolverine, because he wants to take attacks, it's always a good idea to have this on hand, especially if you've already got the Adamantium Skeleton out. You can defend and deal 3 damage to the attacking enemy, and that can be helpful. Wolverine obviously can take punches all he wants, but when he gets to counterpunch, that's always kind of fun. Then we've got Get Behind Me, another way, just like with Black Widow, to just avoid a treachery card. And yeah, well, you don't care about the villain attacking you, which, you know, all the better. Maybe you're even going to get yourself an extra activation off of Berserker Fury, because you're going to take the damage. This is always good when you're not necessarily worried about what the villain is capable of doing to you. Sometimes okay, in some cases this can be bad, but you know what? If you're doing Get Behind Me, that means that whatever the treachery card was is worse than anything that the villain can do to you. Haymaker, easy upgrade card, easy card to upgrade out of at some point. Using the claws to take 2 damage and then deal a 3 damage attack with piercing, maybe not your best use, but getting more attacks in there is always, good for Wolverine. And everything else is his. Got the basic energy stuff, or got the basic resources. Avengers Mansion, a little bit expensive for Wolverine. Obviously, he's got plenty of a hand size, but just being able to draw an extra card every turn is great, because you want as many attacks as you can in play, and sometimes you find yourself with a dead hand, and this can help you dig through that. Helicarrier, just another way to reduce the cost of things. Wolverine is not necessarily wanting for a bunch of ways to reduce the cost of things, but at the same time, why, especially in a small card pool, why not just take advantage of that? Med Team. This is nice because it's just another way to keep Wolverine healthy. Doctor Strange pack is Night Nurse. That might be another good one to just kind of like attach onto this. Night Nurse just heals you for damage and takes a status off of you. But this just being able to heal up an ally or Wolverine is nice. Just the longer you can stay in hero form, the better. And then it's just definitely in 1 copy. Sorry, I overlooked that. Okay, 2 copies of Armored Vest. So basically just to ensure that you are going to find this. Wolverine doesn't need to block all the time, but when he does, being able to block for 3 is not too bad. Just good staple card. And then this was the card that I remember looking at and going, okay, this sells me on the fact that this is the deck I want to show off, just because Wolverine being able to defend but not stop that 2 damage. He's going to regenerate 2 damage anyway, but he's going to be ready. I think Wolverine, for the most part, does not want to find himself exhausted during the villain phase, and this is the card that's going to be able to let you defend for yourself, but still be ready to come out swinging when the turn starts. Overall, like I said, I do wish that there was a way in Marvel CDB to just sort packs by the minimum amount of decks needed, but I think this is probably the perfect way to look at Wolverine from a new player perspective. I was okay picking this because in my mind, Wolverine's the kind of hero that someone gets into the game, the first hero they might want to pick up is Wolverine. And so this is where you could start with. You got your core set, you got Wolverine, you're ready to take on the world. But let's go look at the Obligation and the Nemesis pack. All right, and we are back looking at the Obligation and the Nemesis pack. So, for Obligation for Wolverine, we've got Past Demons. Give to the Wolverine player. You may flip over to Alter Ego, choose either Exhaust Wolverine to remove past demons from the game, or you are stunned and confused, discard this card. I am kind of two opinions about this. Taking a stun and exhaust, or a stun and confused, short of having the healing card to just wipe them away, I would always choose to flip over to Logan and get rid of past demons just so it doesn't come back. Yes, there's a chance that you might lose the Berserker Frenzy, and that kind of is a big setback. This is a free flip to Alter Ego if you do need to recover, but for the most part, being stunned and confused is a big tax, and Wolverine wants to attack so much that I feel like you really have to be pushed to the limit to not pick just exhausting Logan. But either way, I think that it is. I think that the stunned and confused is strong enough that this is a pretty good obligation because it does make you feel like you are obligated to remove this from the game. Moving on to the Nemesis pack, we have Omega Red, 1 scheme, 2 attack, 8 health, brute elite minion with retaliate and steady. Oh my god. Yeah, doesn't even have toughness. So I guess that 8, you're going to be able to get through it. You do have a way to just get rid of it immediately, but you're just not going to be able to benefit from any kind of overkill. But then the Forced Interrupt, when Omega Red attacks, deal 1 damage to each character you control. So you do not want him attacking. And we'll even look at the side scheme as that will come into play immediately with Omega Red. The Carmadium Synthesizer. It is a 5 threat side scheme with when this side scheme is in play, Omega Red cannot be defeated, and it has the boost icon, or not the boost, the acceleration icon. For Wolverine is a little rough because he certainly wants to get rid of Omega Red as soon as possible, because he will just start taking out your allies really. He'll just start chipping away at them very rapidly. But you have to be able to get rid of a 5 scheme side scheme, which is not the hardest thing in the world. It's just Logan's not going to be able to do it naturally very easily. Although you should be able to just use Tracking Scent and Wolverine to get rid of it. But that means that you knew that it was coming, and that might be some preparedness that you're just not ready for. I think this is a pretty strong 1-2 punch because you want to get rid of Omega Red. I suppose you could, in theory, just deal 8 damage to him and he would just sit there until you got rid of the side scheme, because I don't think there's any way for him to heal back. But either way, like I said, this is a strong 1-2 punch. It will get your attention. You do want to try to deal with this duo as soon as possible because they could make for a very rough time. Then we've got 2 copies of Death Factor. It is an attachment. You attach it to your identity. Force response after your turn ends. Take 1 damage. Alter Ego Interrupt. When you would make a basic recovery, discard this card instead of healing the damage. So that can be very important. And can cause the villain to get a really solid chance to scheme against you. because you're going to be spending 2 turns in Alter Ego. If you really need to heal, you're going to be spending 2 turns in Alter Ego, which, well, I guess maybe you'll be spending an extra turn. Either way, you're giving the villain a chance to scheme out. And that is the real threat of this card. Taking the damage is rough, but I think that it changes the math on the main scheme if you need to get rid of this. If you're at full health, you can just kind of let this sit. This is not going to encumber you too much, and I would almost rather this sit here than be 2 icons in the counter deck. But either way, this will surprisingly make an impact if you're just not prepared for it. And then last card is Tentacle Strike. It is a treachery. When revealed, you are stunned. Take 1 damage, 4 damage if you were already stunned. And the boost ability of you are stunned, take 1 damage, 4 damage if you were already stunned. So this is a reason why you want to get rid of your status counters as soon as possible. You know, God forbid you hit your obligation and then Shadow of the Past in some really poor moment of the game, because this can well, I suppose that's not true. If you hit your obligation and then this card is the next card, so you've already gone through Shadow of the Past, you're going through a rough game right there, my friend. But either way, this should not be too bad. But when it's bad, it's going to be real bad. Hopefully you have your I Got Better out, because this could surprise kill you out of nowhere. And that is Wolverine. Like I said, long awaited. I've been looking forward to this one for a long time. I wanted to give Wolverine a couple more paces, and I was able to do that recently so that I could have the most informed discussion of this as possible. I know he is a fan favorite hero. I know that this is the kind of character that new players will come in and they'll want to have Wolverine as soon as possible. He is Marvel in some ways. But my favorite card, I didn't even say this. I realized as I was going through the Nemesis pack. My favorite card is Lunging Strike. I love the art. I love the damage it deals. I love just getting the piercing and overkill when you use Wolverine's claws. Overall, just like I said, I feel like Wolverine is a great new character for new players. And yeah, you should pick him up if you haven't already. If you want to teach someone the game, I think that he is a good character because he is forgiving with that damage healing. I think he lends himself towards new players really well. But until next time, when we talk about Cyclops, I will see you then, and have a great day.